Tell me about your love of wrestling, where that first began for you, and why you wanted to invest blood, sweat, and tears into performers, obviously the booking side of it, all of that. It's such a big machine. I don't think people necessarily understand just how much goes into it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I've been a wrestling fan. I mean, my earliest memory in life is wrestling. So I only have memories of wrestling. My mum and my brother, so I grew up in a single parent family. So my brother's 10 years older than me. I'm 35, so he's 9 years, so he's 43. 34, so, 44, massive shit. Yeah, I've always been a wrestling fan since day dot. I was born in 85, so I can vividly remember 1988, 89 stuff going on, the video cassettes, the action figures, had them all. It didn't matter what you bought me for Christmas, what you bought me for birthdays, or just, my dad would buy me a present now and again. It was wrestling. Wrestling figures didn't really want to pay with anything now, so it was just wrestling. And it was always American wrestling. It wasn't really anything else. I didn't really watch anything here in the UK or Japan. I tried to get things, but it was very difficult. And growing up in a single parent family, my mum didn't drive and my brother didn't drive. Right. And we live in a really small town. We have we don't have a train station. We have a bus that goes out once an hour, if that. So it was very difficult to get anywhere. So I never went to shows until I was an adult. Right. And that was purely because I knew that AJ Styles was coming here, and I was like, wow, I need to see AJ Styles. And cool. I was like, I begged my brother to come with me, and as I say, my brother's 10 years older than me, and my brother just wants to hang out with me anyway, so he was like, yeah, I'll come with you. And we went, and it was fantastic. It was phenomenal. And I was just like, pun intended. Pun intended. But it was just brilliant, and I loved it. And it made me fall in love again more with wrestling. And then I got to see what was here, and I was blown away by things, really.
Of course, man, absolutely. And obviously taking the leap from being a fan into organising and stuff like that, what kind of skills did you need to go from, being that pure fan and having that love? Because love is everything, man. It's great to have the love for a sport and a form of entertainment, but then when you go into the business end of it, when you're organising stuff, so what kind of skills did you need? What kind of skills did you learn?
I was a high-level football coach, so I was basically just being signed off for my UEFA A licence, I believe. Right. And to put that into context, any Premier League managers and UEFA A, and they would have a pro licence. So the only one above that was pro licence. Right. So pretty good. But it was never. That was never my passion. I love football, but it's just wrestling. And so I've always been good at organising things, organising like Sunday league teams or semi-professional teams and training and doing all those things. And I've always been good and kind of someone that would take that lead. Whether I really wanted to do it, it just is a natural thing. And I got to the point where I was at Arsenal at the time, and it was, I was going to go to MK Dons. Right, yeah. And it was the point whereas they said, we can offer you a job, but we can't give you full-time hours, but it is full-time. And I was like, look, I'm 30 years old nearly. Yeah. I'm trying to have a baby, like through IVF treatment. Yeah. I can't do it. And I sat down and I thought, you know what? I'm just going to do something I enjoy. So I enjoy photography. I like doing photography. I picked a camera up when I went to the UFC for the first time in Dublin. And I was like, this is cool. Yeah. This is really fun. This is being creative. And I never ever thought I was a creative person, but it turns out I was. And then I did that. And then I literally just asked a local show that came here, and it wasn't anything special. It was in our local sort of sports centre, communities hall. And it wasn't think big. There wasn't any names on it. So if you looked at the poster, you don't know them. And that's not being disrespectful to people. I had no idea who they were. Right, yeah. So I reached out to the promoter and just said, hey, I live in Haverhill, which is where you're coming. Could I just take some photos of the show? I've never done it before. I just like to try it. Like, I don't want any money. Like, I don't need the money. I just would like to do it. And he replied and said yes, and then we did show 1, and I was like, wow, this is crazy.
Yeah.
And then I did, and then halfway through the show, he was like, do you want to come Thursday to Clacton, which was a relatively bigger town compared to us? And I was like, yeah, okay. He's like, I'll pay you. And I was like, I don't really need, and I have a decent job. I was like, I don't really need the money. I was like, yeah, it's fine. Like, I'll take it.
Yeah,
and then it progressed on, and then Dan Reed, Pro Wrestling Eve, took a gamble on me and brought me in, and Dan, spent a lot of time talking to me over things, and I had a very interest in getting into the business at that period of time. I had some money behind me that I thought I could do something here, but I was still a bit like not sure. And Dan was great, and then it didn't quite work out there, and he was more concentrated on Eve, which was always going to happen. And then I eventually went off to Southside, and Ben, Alden, the Sarah and Harry were just incredible, and I miss them all the time. I'd speak to them every day, and I speak to Ben. I've spoke to Ben every day this week, actually, but that's the first time in a long time that we've been back to kind of how we were before I left, and it's Southside was just phenomenal. I absolutely loved it, and I went there as a fan. That was the second independent show I went to, and I went there as a fan to Nottingham, to the same venue that I now promoted with in WrestleGate.
Yeah,
and it was just, as soon as I walked in, me and my friends looked at each other and we were like, nah, this is for us. This feels right. This feels home. And yeah, it was just brilliant. And yeah, it progressed on and on and on. And skill-wise, go back to your original question, there's no book, there's no podcast, there's no DVD, there's no video, there's no nothing to tell you what to do to get them to prepare you for what you're doing. If you're lucky, someone will put that arm around you and go, you're doing that wrong. But if this is a business, everybody in a way is going to look out for themselves, obviously, but it's very difficult there is trust issues sometimes with things like that, I believe, and it can be quite difficult with people wanting to share their secrets and share their things with you, and it's very hard. I mean, I made so many mistakes starting it, and I still do now. I make mistakes all the time, but there isn't anything. There's no real skills. You just need to have that underlying passion and shoot for the stars.
Yeah, absolutely, man, absolutely. I mean, it's amazing what you've been able to do. So, can you give me a couple of career highlights again before we go on to talk about Wrestle Carnival? Give me a couple of career highlights, things that you're most proud of, you've been able to achieve in the wrestling business. Obviously, you've worked with so many great people. You're about to do something massive, but in terms of so far in your career, getting the opportunity to work at Ring of Honor, which you said was but yeah, can you give me a couple of examples of career highlights, things that you love, things that you're really proud of?
I was very proud of what we did with Southside, very proud of being part with Ben. I went in there just as to help him with social media. I really enjoy social media, so just, you would talk after shows to him, and, I think he gravitated to me quite easily, and, quite a personal person. We would just chat really about, he likes a lot of things that I like. He likes the NFL, likes movies, likes films, so TV shows, things like that. So we had a relationship there. And then we would just talk about wrestling, really, and then it became more and more. I was involved with a few things, not hugely, but I'd just have an opinion, and then he would trust me with things. And so I was very proud of what we did there. I wish I'd have been with him a longer period, maybe a few years before. When I think about it, I wish I could have gone to shows when I originally thought about going to them, and then just didn't sort of think, oh, should I go, shouldn't I go? I was very proud of that. I photographed so many people there. I was a backstage photographer. I did a lot of portrait work, and just loved it. I did Gail Kim's last ever match in the UK, and then, funny enough, 2 weeks later I had to commentate on it because the commentary didn't work on the actual show. So then I was asked to commentate. The first time I've ever put a headset on to commentate, and I was like looking at Rob Maltman. I was like, Rob, I don't know what I'm doing here, mate. He goes, you'll be fine. And I was like, okay. And I've never heard the commentary. I don't want to hear it either. But my first ever commentary was on, argue the best women's wrestler ever.
Yeah, absolutely.
Her match, and then just some of the photos I've done on those shows. Worked with Pentagon Junior and Ray Phoenix and Ethan Page, and just the amount of people they had on those shows were incredible. And then when I went into promoting, just the first show was probably the proudest thing I'd ever done. I'd actually done it, and my original business partner, Sam, who was my real job manager at the time as well, he's just sacked me. There's no heat on it. It's COVID, it happens. But he was my original manager, and he gave me the kick to do it. And just going on that first show, I was like, this is amazing. And then I guess everybody talks about Hangman Page and Pac from AEW, and that was. I don't get stressed, or I get stressed about things, but work for like events or matches like football and like driving lessons, for instance. I don't get stressed on the day, but I was that day. I remember one of my best friends, Ryan, who helps out on the shows, sort of when Hangman came out right at the end, he sort of said to me, "Have you eaten today? Or have you had a drink?" Because I haven't seen. I was like, I haven't had anything, and I just felt like I just couldn't. I was so focused on it not getting out to just kill this, and that's a very, very big achievement, and just being able to put on a show and that people come up to you after and just say how nice they feel and how comfortable they feel at the show, and that for me, that's all I ever really wanted to do, is just provide a safe place for people to come and watch them wrestle, be entertained for a few hours, and then go home, and then hopefully come back each time. So I mean, there's loads of things when you think about it, but it's all been great, to be honest. There isn't really any down. So there's a couple of down things, but
as always. So who've been some of the best people, the greatest people to work with, whether they've been performers or otherwise, and what are some of the best matches that you've seen when you've obviously been working the shows, promoting, and what were some of the highlights you'll always look back on in terms of matches?
I mean, we've had some great matches. I love working with everybody, really. They're all great. And it's a bit cliche, so I know everyone's great, but they were genuinely. I haven't had any that I thought, this is a bit boring, and I wish I didn't book this match, or the team didn't book this match, because it was a team effort. It's not just Gary Wood; it was the whole team did this. I think the Hangman and Pac match will be the one that stands out the most for shock value. Shuji Ishikawa and Rampage Brown's probably the best wrestling match I've ever seen live ever. And I was so proud to bring Shuji and All Japan Management here, and Joe Doran as well. That was amazing, and that was probably one of the best matches I've ever seen. Again, go to Germany and watch us have guest matches there, and then Italy as well, and just seeing the reaction in Italy for Robbie X and Chris Ridgway was just insane. It was mental, and the fact that I was at the merch stand and people coming to me with DVDs for us to sign, like the talent to sign, and I'm thinking, I haven't sold any DVDs. They're sat there still. I was like, has he nicked that? And then I'm like counting, I'm like, he hasn't. And then like one of the UK people that came over with it, and they were like, have you sold them? I was like, no. And I said to him, where did you get it? He goes, I bought it. You sent it to me. I was like, well, you're in Italy and you're buying. It's just, and they were doing it in Germany, and just things like that was just incredible. Other matches that we put on are just incredible. I think whenever you have Robbie X in a match or Sean Custom, they always deliver bang on. I really enjoyed Ita and Sean Custom. Ita just was the chairman. He was just throwing chairs everywhere and burying them in chairs. And Mil Muertes was incredible to work with, actually. I took a big gamble on bringing him. He's never been to the UK before, and I was like, I think if we're going to do a show, that I need to bring someone that people are instantly going to go, whoa, I haven't seen him before. And I think we did that well with Mil, and it was an absolute pleasure to work with. I mean, there isn't many imports that come over and lose. I think I've had, or we have had, one import that's won over all of our wrestlers. Two, because we had to change because one was a champion, but we've had two, and I just felt really really wanting to put our own stars over, and actually just thought of a match. Konosuke Toshita versus Chris Ridgway at that point was the best match I'd ever seen live, and then Shuji and Rampage killed it. But it's brilliant. There's so many. It's been great. It's been a very quick first year as a promoter.
Yeah, man. I'm really glad you've obviously got a lot of passion for the business, and you've obviously worked really hard, which is amazing. Obviously, like, it would be a shame not to talk about. You've got your Ring of Honor T-shirt on. What's the collaboration going on there? Can you tell me about it? What can you say?
So I've always been a Ring of Honor fan. Ring of Honor has been probably my favourite promotion for a long time. I started to fall out of love a little bit with wrestling when UFC started taking off.
Yeah.
And Ring of Honor was the promotion that kind of brought me back, and I followed them religiously. And similar to you and other people, I would just write for magazines or write for my own website and just put my opinions out there. And a lot of what I do, and this is no disrespect to anybody else because you're entitled to your opinions, I only really ever talk about positive things. So if I see something I like on the show, I just talk about that. There's countless times I've disliked something that's happened on Ring of Honor. I just don't write about it. And so for me, I just go out there and I write all the time. And then a lot of the wrestlers started following me, the promotion and things like that. And I was like, this is cool. And then when they come to the UK, I was always at the shows. And then as time goes on, you get familiar with people. And I'd work with Jay Lethal through Southside. And everybody that knows me personally knows that Jay Lethal was my favourite wrestler. So when I'm in the backstage setting my lighting up, and I'm setting all the lighting, and then I look to the door and I'm like, that's Jay. And in my head, I'm like, oh my God, right, what do I do? And I just picked up a wrestler from the airport, the Mac, and I'm sat there with the Mac actually before we're in McDonald's, and then I look over and I was like, oh, it's Jay Lethal. And he like walked past and he's like, hey guys, and I was like, don't know what to do at this point. I'm proper fanboying out, and the Mac's going, you're all right, mate, because Mac's known me for a while because I'm really good friends with Bad Bones, and I've gone and visited them a lot, and I'm like, yeah, he's my favourite wrestler, but I don't know what to do. And then Jay was just amazing when I was like, oh, Mr. Lethal, can I tell you you're my favourite wrestler? And he just laughed it off, and then we became friends after, and I think with that association, and then Shane Taylor's actually stayed with us here when he comes on tour. He's stayed in my house, and people just I've gravitated to Ring of Honor, and then they would invite me to the shows here in the UK. For I'd come to the shows, and then unfortunately, like I said earlier, I lost my job at the beginning of COVID at the lockdown, and I didn't want to ask for people for money to support things like that. I just said, look, I can do graphic design if people want to get some ads done. I'll do it cheap enough that you'll want it done, but it still helps me. Yeah. And Ring of Honor, I literally about 20 people from Ring of Honor reached out, just everybody. And then recently I've been talking a lot to Delirious, that has a lot of influence backstage. And then been doing some stuff with Delirious. And then, I spoke to him 2 or 3 days ago, and he was like, we've always been aware of you. You've always been really good. We always like you. And do you want to do some stuff? And I was like, I can do a podcast. I can talk. And then, so we put a podcast together. I'm going to do a Ring of Honor based podcast in the UK.
Wow.
It's not like they're going to promote things. They're going to give me access to anybody that I want. I can use, Honor. It's going to be called Honor United Podcast. So and that's the name of their tour, so they're allowing me to use that. They were going to potentially let me use the ROH name as well, right? But they already have a podcast. So I think it would be good to just kind of separate. Yeah. So we're going to do a podcast here, and Delirious is going to set me up with whoever we want. So just trying to get out there to see who people want to speak to. At the moment, Nigel McGuinness seems to be the first name that everybody wants. Whether we can pull that off, I'm not sure, but I'd love to. But yeah, hopefully we'll be able to do some things with Ring of Honor in the future as well, maybe on shows and stuff like that, by the sort of things we're talking about. I'd certainly love to. It'd be perfect. Yeah,
there's loads of possibilities there. Obviously, Ring of Honor's audience is good in the UK, great in the UK, even people like yourself supporting them. I'm sure it's going to go from strength to strength, which is fantastic. So, man, Wrestle Carnival. How, like I say, I've said a lot of things, like I say, it's an amazing thing that you were able to go from taking photos and just being a fan to being in the business. But this is a whole new ball game, man. This is exciting. So what possessed you? Tell me about the thoughts. Tell me about the creative process to do the Wrestle Carnival, and how did it all come together for you? What was the initial thought process? Where were you? What were you thinking? And yeah, how did it all come together?
I mean, wrestling starts in a carnival, starts in circuses, you know. So for me, I was like, it just made sense to go right back and then have these over-the-top characters, over-the-top storyline. You know, per video out, we want it to be, you know, over-the-top characters, world-class in-ring wrestling. So again, I still want that Ring of Honor aspect to it. Have characters, have storylines, have captivating storylines that you can really like get into. Wrestle Carnival is going to be very structured the whole way through. I'm a completely different person, as in mentally, physically, and as in from a professional standpoint than I was when I started. My understanding of wrestling is like on a different level now, and I really feel that these types of storylines and ideas that I can bring are going to be perfect for this type of environment. So it was again coming up with like a name, which I always found difficult, even with WrestleGate. It takes so long to think of a name, and then to make sure nobody's got that name, and all these problems. But Wrestle Carnival, if you say it, you're like, oh, okay, I know what that's going to be. You know, you can kind of judge what that's going to be. So I've spent about 2 days on it. Booked a whole year of shows, whole year of storylines. So from day dot, there's going to be stories the whole way through. The whole way through. Every single show is going to be continuation of several stories up to our main big show in November. That is the idea. Pray to God that no one gets injured or has to cancel or anything like that, but they are the ideas. So I'm really going to focus on what we have here in England, and not. And if I can work with someone that comes over, great. But I'm not going to be actively looking for it. I want to focus on what we have here and build stories and ideas around our core audience, our core people here in England. Yeah. And that's the idea behind it. You know, there's a list of people that I really want to work with more so than I have, and put them into creative ideas. And really, there's a storyline I have an idea for, and I spoke to the two people and I said, this is the idea. This is the end game. You go figure the rest out. Right, and they loved it. And then that's exactly what I want to do. So I'm really excited about it. I don't know when it's going to happen, but I'm very excited to be able to do it and just be able to do these more over-the-top ideas and more over-the-top things that I were doing before. Other companies are probably always doing these type of things, but I haven't. And so I'm really excited about doing that. And anything with a carnival, anything circusy, it's just is wrestling, right? So it's going to be cool.
It's amazing, man. And are you surprised by the positive? So you've had a lot of different fan reception on Twitter and social media, different people saying different things. But obviously the event, you know, there's going to be events in Milton Keynes, but like we're up north in Hull, and there's loads of support for you up here as well. So are you surprised by the kind of groundswell of support that you've had on socials?
Yeah. It's very nice that people want us to go everywhere. It's a carnival, so you never know. We might travel around. There needs to be a base. There is a base. There's a base set, but there is things in place where we can hopefully go everywhere. This morning I spoke to somebody that was having a bit of a hard time promotion-wise, and I was like, look, what if we come and help you, and that helps us in other areas, and you know, trying to think of ideas or ways we can do that. So it's very humbling to know that people want us everywhere, but you need to be sensible that we could draw there, but we don't lose money, because if I lose money, I'm done. I'm at, this is it for me. If this doesn't do well, I'm going to say this has been a fantastic 2 years. I'm going to go be an experienced fan again.
Right.
So this is it for me. I'm not going to do anything else other than this. You know, if it works out great, and I get to the end of the year and I'm like, I just don't want to do this anymore, then that's it. You know, but it's just, I'd like to go as many places, but we need to be realistic on what we're doing. I can tell you that you'll be fine in Hull. You'll see some, not in Hull specifically. But I'm was replying to an email as you connected. So
okay.
You wouldn't be too far away from Hull, hopefully. There's more locations than just Milton Keynes.
Fantastic. That's good to know, man. That's good to know. A few more questions then now. Obviously, the British wrestling scene has been hit by the Speaking Out movement, and obviously some very brave people have been coming forward, and there's been some revelations across the wrestling culture, really, and the landscape. What are your hopes and goals for Wrestle Carnival in terms of, kind of bringing the British wrestling scene back to the forefront? Because it's taken quite a hit recently, through some of these allegations and things through various talent.
I just feel that we all as a company industry need to really take a hard look at what's happening. When you see something, speak out and do say something. And we're putting things in place here that I completely understand that female wrestlers may not be able to speak to me about certain things. So we have a talent liaison that's there, that's female, that people can speak to, and she can then speak to me, or we can deal with things. But we have to put policies and procedures in place that this is not happening anymore. I have about 11 policies and procedures wrote out, and once the website is ready to go, they're available to read. I mean, people can read them now if they want to read them. There is no tolerance to anything like that in our shows, and there's never been any in the 2019 shows I ran. I feel I ran a really nice, relaxed environment. Had some of those people that have speak out at the shows, and they've always said, how nice it's felt. Unfortunately, it doesn't happen everywhere, but we just need to be vigilant more than we are, and not be afraid to speak out in fear of losing a booking, or in fear of losing a potential story. It's nonsense. Yeah. I listened to the Ring of Honor roundtable yesterday with Ian Riccoboni, Shane Taylor, Jay Lethal, Kenny King, Jonathan Gresham, and Caprice Coleman, and they spoke about Black Lives Matter, and it blew me away. Like the things that a person of African American or black people, or Asian, whatever, the things that these go through is insane. And I can't comprehend as a privileged white person to even understand it, and we can't allow these things to happen. And it's great that people spoke out, because there's a lot of people that don't deserve to be in wrestling, and it's great to see them now not in wrestling, even in bigger promotions. It's great. So everybody needs to unite, and it's going to take a long time to repair. It's going to take, and I think a lot of people won't come back. I think there'll be wrestlers that'll be, I don't want to be in this anymore. But some people that have been doing this for 20 years, how can they trust anyone? I mean, it's going to be very difficult, and I feel for so many people, so many levels, as a human, and then as a father as well. It's just I have a little girl, and just can't comprehend it. It's really difficult.
It is challenging, and obviously that'd be an interesting question about your inspirations outside of wrestling. You talk about your family. Obviously, it's a wrestling-based interview, but you seem like a wonderful human being, mate, with a lot of great inspiration. So, can you tell me about some of the things that that motivate you outside of wrestling, hobbies, your family, things like that?
Yeah, so I only ever really wanted to be in wrestling, really, but always, once my daughter came along, so she's just turned 4. She turned 4 last week.
Oh wow, fantastic!
And
happy birthday!
Thank you. And I always look at her, and I was like, I wonder what she's going to be. What's she going to do with her life? And she's outside now in a princess dress, running around the garden. And you think, what's she going to be? What's she going to do? And this was the overall thought with WrestleGate. And I said it before, like, how can I tell her to follow her dream if I never did it? So I've done what I always wanted to do. It's done now. If I've walked away today, I wouldn't have any regrets. I'd be quite happy with what I've done. But I always did it because I thought, if she comes to you as a 16-year-old when she's deciding what she wants to do with her life, and you say follow your dreams, and then they ask you if you haven't, I always find that quite difficult. So for me, it was all that. She added that extra motivation for me to go, let's just go for it. I was doing football, but I was just in it. I just fallen in it, and it was just something that, it was cool to do, and it wasn't what I wanted to do. So when I did this, and it was great. So very motivated by that. And then I've got good family and friends around me that support that. My wife's very, very supportive, and my mum as well. And then my close friends as well. Some of them don't necessarily like wrestling, but they'll be at a show, the odd show, or they'll retweet or like things, and try and help with that. And so it's very much a good family around you, and that's always been a good motivation for me.
That's amazing. Just to finish off, last question. One of the things I've picked up during this interview is you're not afraid to talk about your mistakes, and I think that's one thing that I have learned with people is sometimes people find it very, very difficult to accept that it's okay to make mistakes and learn and develop and grow. And you said that I really like, there's a little bit of a quote from you, and you said you've learned and grown quite a lot since you started in wrestling to now. And I wanted to ask you to, before we finish up, can you elaborate on how you've grown and developed, and what you've learned about yourself as a person, as well as a professional, through the work you've done and through the life you've led?
I got so excited. It was just an excitement. I'm 35 in a couple of months. I'm just a kid, still a big kid. I get excited about Christmas, and I'm actually excited about my birthday in 2 months. Because I'm like, I wonder what I'm going to get. That's just me as a person. I get excited about these things, and I made those mistakes. I got overexcited, and and because we were getting so much likes and retweets and shares, I thought that's all it was about, and it clearly isn't. It's about putting people in a seat who pay. And I got excited about those things, and I just made so many. I was announcing things way in advance, way before I should, and didn't understand that the scene has been broken before, because I just didn't follow that scene. There's people that would put shows on and then not be able to pay talent, and I'd hate that. That'd be the worst thing. So you, excuse me, and then you understand those things, and you take feedback in, and it is pretty. Either other fans or people that write media-wise, and you have to listen to that. And so for me, I step back and was like, okay, I understand why they're saying that. Okay, what have I done to entice that? So then you try and change that. And then as I've progressed on through the last year, is surrounding yourself with people that are more experienced and just listening to them. And while, yes, not everything that someone experienced says is right, but you take the good and the bad things. And I'm at the position now that I feel I'm on a completely different mindset to what I was when I first started. Mm-hmm. Like, if I could quite easily tell you 4 places where I want to promote a show right now. Yeah. And I probably would have done that a year ago. Like I said, I booked a whole year's worth of shows. I could probably tell you all those people right now. I probably would have done at least half of that a year ago. Yeah. I would have probably paid stupid amounts of money for people to come over in a lockdown situation. You make mistakes, and you have to learn from them, and I was very lucky that I've been able to learn from them quickly, and I'm now set into a position where I'm like, okay, I know how to structure a show from like a talent point of view, and how to fund the show, and how to price the show effectively. And I've been having the debate on Twitter today actually with some people that were talking about fees for wrestlers, and people don't understand the level and amount that goes into running a wrestling show. Yeah. And it's difficult. And there's one promotion was struggling, and I spoke to him yesterday and was like, you do realise if your show's X amount, you need to have Y in your bank account before you even run. You can't run a show in hope people are going to turn up. And that's probably the biggest advice for me I had or heard was, if a show's £4,000, you need £2,000 in your account right now. Yeah. Because you might sell half of those tickets to cover that other 2. Yeah. That's minimum. You should have it all. Yeah. So I mean, when we first started, we had the money to run the show, but we just thought that was normal. But after a while, you're like, oh, this isn't normal, or we're making mistakes here, and we're costing ourselves money. Like, you have to learn from those. And I'm very lucky now. I've got the opportunity to understand the bad things and not repeat them. Take the good things, bring them in, and then some other things. But I think it's good to be honest with yourself when you make mistakes. But it's like mental health as well. I'm very, I've struggled with that quite a lot over the years, and I think it's very good that you put yourself out there to say that you know, I've been there too, or I've made these mistakes. It's okay.
Yeah.
In some senses, it's okay to make that mistake. Just don't keep making that mistake, because you're not going to come back from it. So the last thing I ever want to do is to go to a show and not be able to pay someone that. You know, that's the worst scenario. That is the worst scenario. Before you get to the show, obviously people get hurt or whatever, but prior to the show, it's the worst thing. I worry about it daily. I sit all day thinking about ticket pricing. Honestly, I'm trying to make it so affordable for people, and it's very difficult to. And I sit and think about it all the time. But fingers crossed, we'll be okay.
Yeah, man, my fingers are firmly crossed for you as well. So before we finish off, man, any messages for the people listening, watching, for people that are checking out Wrestle Carnival, and just anything you want to add, really?
Yeah, just obviously appreciate everybody's support. Still, it's been incredible, especially when I announced I was doing this, and it blew up again, which is great. Would love to see as many people at the shows, obviously, to be able to keep putting on entertainment for people. We would like to provide the best environment for everybody, not only fans but performers and anybody who are associated with the company. Just keep following us. Like I said, I have so much that I can announce and confirm and put out there, but it's not really the right time. We're not going to run until 2021 anyway, to be honest. It's not. I don't think it's really safe to do so in the climate we're in now, unless something really changes government-wise or with COVID. I just don't think it's really right. So it's likely not until it'll be January time anyway, end of January. But things could change tomorrow, I guess. Ring of Honor or someone could go, "Can you run a show?" And I'm like, "Yes." But you know, things like that. You never say never, I guess. But you know, people that are running shows are going to be running shows next year. Please support them, and be safe. Wear a mask. Bring hand sanitizers, all those things to protect you and everyone around you. But in terms of Wrestle Carnival, please follow us on all social medias, like, share, retweet, be interactive. If there's something you enjoy or something you want to see, or a place or a venue or a person or a match stipulation, let me know, because I listen to everything. We changed a show name, wasn't even going to be a show name, but we changed the name on our graphic because one person was offended by it, and I don't want to offend someone, so I changed it. So I listen to these things, and I want to make it good. And whenever we run, I hope everybody can come, and I'll try and make it as enjoyable as possible.
Mate, we're super excited. A lot of people are. So thank you so much, Gary, for your time today. Really appreciate it, mate, and we'll see you down the road for sure.
Yeah, no way. Thank you, mate.